As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
A lot to unpack this week, and I want to start with a story that I felt did not get much play at all. I feel like this flew right under the radar, but it's one of those the prophet was right stories. And I'll share it here so you guys can see. The headline is Tencent to buy Xiaomi's BlackShark gaming division for $470 million. So this is a report claiming that Tencent Games is about to acquire Xiaomi's BlackShark gaming division in a deal worth about 3 billion Chinese yen, and that's about $470 million US dollars. Now, for those of you who don't know, BlackShark makes gaming phones primarily. So Tencent, it says, had struck partnerships with various smartphone makers, including Asus and Nubia. With BlackShark, it says the company might be able to take its business overseas, as well as given that Xiaomi's division has already penetrated some big markets. So this is a gaming phone manufacturer fundamentally, and Tencent, it's rumored, this is a report, it's not confirmed, is looking to buy it. So I think we can conclude, assuming that the rumors and the reports are true, Tencent is going to be Tencent Games specifically, getting into the gaming phone business. Jeff, I know you have thoughts on this.
Prophet was right. That's number one. That should be the number one lesson. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm not entirely sure how Tencent getting into the phone business makes a ton of sense for them. Like, I don't, and mainly because I don't see phones as kind of, people don't buy phones for gaming reasons, like for games. You know, like I can understand why a console manufacturer would get into building games, right? You need games to push exclusive content, to move machines. However, with phones, like I just don't see that many people who buy their phones because there's a game on it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this has certain specs, and this is the market that they're going after. But to me, you buy your phone, and then a game is just something that's on there. So I don't necessarily see the industrial logic to vertically integrating hardware and software in that case. But I guess maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, Jimmy, do you think this solves the Fortnite in China question, right? And I know I'm like tying this to a much bigger problem here, but hear me out, right? Tencent buys a gaming phone manufacturer. Tencent owns a big chunk of Epic, right? Now they can offer Fortnite on their own phone, on a Tencent phone in China, and it's the only place you can play Fortnite in China. It's the only place maybe you can play PUBG in Asia, right? Or like pick a number of games that are exclusive to Tencent. Maybe League in China, right? Or like the Wild Rift, right? Which is their mobile version of League. I don't know. Could you not see exclusives driving mobile phone sales, especially in Asia?
I think it depends on the Asian countries, right? Because there's also restrictions on the amount of game time that in China that they can play right now. Green of Free Fire, and it's hard because we have such a Western view of what games are popular, right? And I just threw out Green of Free Fire, which is massive over there. And you mentioned Wild Rift. I get the question, right? Which is, hey, they have a lot of exclusive titles. Now they can pair it with this phone and drive phone sales. I'm not a big fan of exclusivity because I think to get more users to play your product, you need to put it on as many platforms as you can. That's what music did. They said, hey, we're getting all of our songs pirated, and why don't we stop selling $17 CDs and instead put it on every single streaming service or release a bunch of free EPs? And that was a pretty successful model for them. So, I mean, the future, or at least a big part of the future of esports and of gaming in general, is definitely mobile. So for that reason, I love it. There was an indication that this company had a lot of success overseas and in outside countries, and for that reason, I think it's interesting. But if the question is this going to get Fortnite back in China? That would be the reason. That would be where my interest kind of stops.
I just want to read. Lynette says, "Hello, everyone. Lynette, welcome. Great to see you here." And Christopher says, "Good evening. Good evening, Christopher." I just want to read his comment. People will continue to buy phones for games just because of mobile gaming growth and opportunity, especially once everything goes to AR, in my humble opinion. I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, Lindsay, my question for you is, and Jeff mentioned this, the prophet was right. What did I say? That the developers like Tencent, like Epic, who are all fed up paying Apple's tax for their marketplace, instead of complaining, could go make their own phones, make their own app stores, right? Do all those things that they think is so trivial and not worth the 30% tax. Did someone at Tencent just listen to me, Lindsay, or do you think they're out to lunch with this?
Well, I do. I totally think that the mobile game or the phone market in China is so different. In the US, we're just so heavily dominated by Apple that the consumer preference there is kind of the game companies like Epic are sort of at the mercy of that preference, especially in this market. But in Asia, it's completely different. I don't know if you all have seen, but OnePlus is a different Chinese phone manufacturer that's gotten a lot of traction lately. It's been in a lot of YouTube ads. I know people who have bought Huawei phones and all kinds of stuff from like Chinese phone manufacturers, and they actually are like really interesting, super capable phones, but the American market is just so uninterested in that. So I don't know if this play would work for Epic, but I totally think it works for Tencent, where they're much more about software and hardware accessibility and applicability rather than brand awareness. There's just much different motivations there. And I think that this is going to be really successful. If Epic did it in the US, I don't think that they would be able to overcome Apple's brand hold on most of the market here.
Maybe not. And it may just be niche if they come to the US. It's not clear. But I do think this is step one. And I love that they took this step because I think they have no other choice. Because you either accept the Apple toll, right? To be on their marketplace, to be on their store, because it gets you onto 1 billion phones, or you go make your own, right? But the complaining about it to me was always the criticism I had of Epic, because I think what will happen, ironically enough, is this will most likely fail because making hardware is difficult. It's not like making games. And, 5 years from now, we won't hear about Tencent in the phone business, but they will have learned an important lesson, which is paying 30% to Apple probably is worth it, right? Like they will have learned it the hard way, and it's already cost them $500 million here. I will love to see how much they sink into trying to get around the Apple tax. That's, to me, what is that number is the most interesting part of this whole conversation.
I mean, do you think Tencent's worried about that, though? I wouldn't think that they would be as concerned about Apple and the 30% tax so much as they are about all the different Chinese restrictions and having their own hardware out there to be able to play the games. And it's their motivations seem quite different to me.
I would think restrictions and it gets them around any tax, right? Whether it's Apple, whether it's Google, whether it's Chinese regulation, whether it's right, it gives them their own platform that they control. I just think they've massively underestimated how costly it is to build your own platform that you control.
I think the only way it would be worth it is if they viewed this as them building basically an app store, right? Because just saving the 30%, you're never going to be able to justify making smartphones and putting all that cost up. I do think if you're saying, hey, we're going to be the Apple of China based on this phone, because everyone wants to play the exclusive game, so it becomes the most popular phone, and then we create the monopoly app store, then maybe the juice becomes worth the squeeze. But I just think if you're just trying to save 30%, there's no way that math makes sense, to your point.
Juice in the squeeze. I see what you did there.
No, your point may be correct, Jeff. Right? Like I'd have to sort of think through the numbers, and I'm sure there's back of the envelope math we could do, right? In terms of what Tencent gives up on the 30% just on Fortnite, for example, when Fortnite was on Apple. But I feel like they've consistently underestimated how difficult this is, and to sink $500 million, I admire the conviction at the very least, right? I admire that this was the only path outside of walled gardens of any kind that you have, is to go build your own platform, and maybe this is the start of that. So interesting one to watch. I want to stay on the mobile side, guys, because there was another really big mobile story. Actually, let me just get Greg's comment here before I move on. It says Tencent is not naive enough to think this would get them around Chinese control. Tencent appears to be following President Xi's directives. I mean, Greg, that's been like a recurring question on this live stream, which is like, how rogue is Tencent within the Chinese regime, right? Like, are they immune because they're so big? Are they able to push back? Are they completely at the mercy of the regime? I feel like it's not clear, not to me at least.
I'm not sure I understand the point of how would this get them around the Chinese control? Wouldn't it be even worse?
I mean,
how would having their own hardware?
If it's your own hardware platform, it may be more difficult to regulate and to like actually physically control. But you're right. I mean, the Chinese government could do anything. Could tell them to stop selling phones. Could literally do anything they want. I just wonder if they think it gives them some kind of advantage. I don't know. It's a good point. And to Greg's point, I think they're probably not. They probably know very well what they can and can't get away with. I really think this has more to do with the App Store taxes and walled gardens than Chinese control.